Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today I am going to be doing my first buddy reads. If you don't know what that is, it's where I'm reading and reviewing a book along with another booktuber, and that is Jenny over at Adultish Books, so I will link her channel down below. I think she's posting her review later tonight, but I am going to go through this a little bit quickly because I may or may not have a take-home exam that's due in a few hours that I have to submit online that I also may or may not have not started yet. But we were thinking for a book we were going to read and review together, we wanted it to be kind of fun, and we wanted it to be sort of different from what you're generally seeing on BookTube and very different from what we normally read. So our first thought was obviously erotica. So the book we ended up choosing within that genre was The Siren by Tiffany Reisz, and of course this review will be spoiler free as usual. So at the heart of this book you have Nora Sutherland. She's beautiful in her early 30s, and she's also one of the most prominent, if not the most famous, erotica author in the world. She's interested in stepping outside of her comfort zone and sort of entering more of the literary world, and a publishing house that's very prominent also is in need of some money. So they team up, but upon the condition that she will have to follow the exacting standards of course, he's attractive British, one of their editors named Zach. So this new book that she's writing for this publishing house has to be to his exact standards, and of course on top of that, he has zero interest in having an erotica author be part of this publishing company. He just views all erotica as trash, and of course he's going to be very harsh about anything that she's reading. Then we also have not a love triangle, even kind of a love square. We have a Siren who is Nora's ex, and they have sort of this BDSM past. And then we have Wesley, who is 19 and he lives with Nora. I'm not going to get into why or the background on that because that would be spoiling, but he's 19 and very virginal and perfect, and he happens to also live with the most famous erotica author in the world. So first I will get into what I liked about this book. Often with erotica or romance novels, the female protagonist is always the virginal one. She's pure, she's innocent, she's very meek, and Nora is the opposite of all of those things. She's very strong, she's very funny. So I think that was incredibly refreshing to just have a strong, of course she's flawed, but a very strong-willed female protagonist in an erotica novel. I will also say the way the book progresses, often with erotica or romance novels, just by reading the inside flap with the first 20 pages, you can kind of guess how it's going to progress by the end, but I definitely did not. Where all of the individuals were by the end of the book, I would never have anticipated just based off the beginning. I will also say that unlike 50 Shades of Grey, which I absolutely despise, now that I'm thinking about it, all the things I liked about this book are the things that I didn't like in 50 Shades of Grey. But one of the other things that I did like was I really liked the representation of what BDSM is. They had really good commentary on that side of the sexual world. So now on to what I didn't like. One of the main things I was not the biggest fan of was a lot of the main male characters. Zach and Siren just fell really flat for me. I just wasn't hugely interested in either of them. Specifically Siren, who's meant to be this very domineering, intimidating character, I just didn't think had a big presence in the book. In fact, the only thing I could think when he came into a scene was just, oh, I'm picturing Eric from True Blood. I also thought Wesley was a bit idealized and just a bit too perfect. He just never felt real to me. One of the other things that I know Jenny and I were talking about this is there's this sort of underlying, well, kind of overt and covert theme of a sort of, not necessarily, well sometimes, but underage sex. And unlike BDSM, which I thought was handled very well and they had sort of a social commentary on that, this I just felt was sometimes thrown in throughout the book for shock value, and I didn't understand what the author was really trying to get at there. But my biggest gripe with this book is kind of a big one. So obviously throughout the entirety of the book, Nora will write a certain passage for this new book that's supposed to be written so well, and you'll see that passage. You'll read it kind of along with Zach, and at the end, and he's supposed to be such a harsh critic, he'll say, wow, this is really, really surprisingly good. And I'm sitting there going, nope, it's not. And here's the thing, I don't think the writing in this book is terrible or atrocious. I just think it's pretty average. I do think in comparison to other popular erotica novels, say 50 Shades of Grey, the writing in this is much, much better, and there is a lot more depth and heart to this. But at the same time, when you're continually told throughout the book that you're supposed to essentially think that it's written so well, it makes you review it harsher and look at the writing a bit more harshly, and it was really just very average to me. But overall, it was a fun read. It had a lot more depth than I think the average erotica novel does. So say if you read 50 Shades of Grey and it felt a little flat for you and you're interested in reading something else, I would recommend checking this out. I think I remember saying in my review of 50 Shades of Grey, and I will also say the sex in this is much less vanilla, yes, vanilla, than I thought the sex was in 50 Shades of Grey. I remember in my review of that I said something like, after hearing all these horrific things that supposedly happened in it, I was at the point where I was like, is he gonna fuck her in the eye? I mean, what is gonna happen in this book? And then it was just a bunch of butt slapping, and I was kind of going, I will just say this book takes the topic of BDSM to a much higher level. So that was my review of the Siren. I would like to know, do you guys ever read erotica? This isn't something that I generally review or that's often talked about on BookTube. I would like to know. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you guys soon.